أكتوبر وبصلواتكم ربنا يكمل المشروع بتاعه وشفاعة العذراء ومرجرجس والأنبا شنودة ربنا يكمل المشروع ده. There was a great progress in the last period, as we mentioned earlier, about 60 to 80 workers that come on daily basis, and to get this far, and God willing, end of September, October, we will have the whole place complete and have the keys. But obviously that doesn't include the iconostasis or furniture. It's just going to be building with all the finishes. Keep praying that we finish on time, and we finish in peace, and we finish without any issues. God bless.
We're just going to give 3 more slides, and we'll get started with the next lecture. Next, we want to give you a financial update, since the last time we gave an update may have been in 2020, the end of 2022, so it's been a year. So far, just to remind everybody, the land was acquired. Soft costs are the engineering, the architects, the taxes, the environmental, all the stuff that goes in getting ready and getting your permits, taxes, and then construction cost up to today paid by the church was $14.6 million through God's grace, funded by the church. In the last three or 4 months, we started drawing down on our construction loans. So far, $4.1 million from TD Bank has funded the project. So we're up to $23 million having funded the project, of which the majority, except for $4 million, came from the church and all the contributions. Yes? In 14 for construction, 19 in total. So yes. So 19 in total from the church, 4 from TD Bank, up to this far. Now, what do we need to get to the finish line? We have another $11.6 million that's going to be funded by TD Bank, and the church is still obligated for another 3.1 to some of the contractors that we're in contracting with directly. So of this total, where the church is still in need of another $750,000 in the coming months to meet our $3.1 million obligation. So this is point number 1, which is extremely important. And the reason why, and we'll talk about it in our next slide, the reason why we're not short, but we're asking again for the $750 is in 2022 in December, the goal was to get our loan, to secure the loan, we need $150 in our monthly ACH, if you guys remember. We said that was a fund for $50K, was because our ACH was $100,000 every month. We needed to get it to $150 for 2 reasons: A, to secure the loan, and B, it will fund the remainder of the project and where we need to get to the finish line. At the time, we got to $130,000 per month, which was okay to secure the loan, but gave us a shortfall that over the period of time where we're not collecting. This is the $750 that we're asking for now. So to give you an update on our monthly pledges, we had the fund for $50K in December 2022. We started at $100,000. We got up to $130,000 a month. As of January this year, we're down to $120. So some of the reasons of the, people pass, circumstances change. There's some reasons why the number goes down, but we're in need of to bring that number back to 150. It needs to be at 150 to manage our debt that we're going to have as soon as the project finishes, and also to take care of the cost of running a new building. 3 buildings, not 1 building. So 2 things. Number 1, we have the $750,000 that we need to collect either through one-time payments or loans, and we need to increase the monthly pledges by $30,000. The one number I want to bring to your attention is only 700 families, individuals, are participating, which is a very, very, very small number. Let me give you some database numbers. Right, since we started the church database a few years ago, we have roughly 7,500 members in our database. Let's say 500 are duplicates or inaccurate, but 7,000 members in our database. Approximately, we take attendance every Sunday in the app. We have, on average, every Sunday sitting in a chair around 850 children on any given Sunday. That's not how much are on the roster. Those are kids sitting in a chair, right? We have approximately, that you can debate, but it's not, definitely over 2,000 families. Some argue higher, some argue lower. We have a lot of families. So we have 700 only participating in monthly giving, which is not a good, which is something maybe me as a priest is failing to communicate spiritually the importance of giving. So if we're not giving, it's a spiritual problem, not a financial problem. We have, so 690 members are participating, and we told you. So the idea was, if we had met our 150 a month back when we asked for it, that difference would have covered the 750 that we're asking about now, or very close to it. So through God's grace, everything is going as best as it can go. Thank God. And God is working wonderfully, and we're telling Abuna Thomas to write down every miracle, every time God interfered, to write it down, because it's going to be a beautiful story. All right? But the goal today is, things are moving beautifully. The project should be, through God's grace, delivered to us in the coming months. The timeline is the next slide. The gym was the first one that should be finished. You saw it was further along. They hope to be ready for a CO in July of 2024. The church and the service building by the fall of 2024, September, October. The point that Abuna Thomas made, which was very important, is we're going to get keys to an empty building. We're trying to manage expectations. Keys to an empty building. Can we be ordering benches and all these things now? We can. But it's very easy if we started collecting, saying, listen, who wants to contribute towards bench? Everybody raise their hands. But who wants to contribute towards the 750,000? We might not get there. So the goal is going to be very simple. We can start. The people are shopping for benches and icons. There's a lot of work being done, and chairs and furnishing the place. But we can't begin to say, let's come and collect money. Who wants to donate a chair? Who wants to, like other churches do, until we meet these two goals first. So number one, in the next few months, we need everybody to see if they can make a contribution, a one-time contribution towards this goal of 750. And you're going to write on your check, fund for 50K, because that was the fund that we started that needed to get it to a certain dollar amount. So it's fund for 50K. We need to get to 750 in the next few months to fund the remaining contractors that we're obligated to. And then we need to increase our monthly by 30K. If only the 700 people or families that are giving, if those are the only ones that are going to carry the church, that amount, if you divide 30,000 by 700, it's like $45 a month, which is not a good, yes, can the 700 people carry the load? Yeah, probably. But where's the rest? Where's the rest? Now, to us parents, very important we teach our children to give. So I remember when we were going, you guys, we did this. Here's your dollar for Sunday school. Here's your dollar for your Urban. Are we doing that with our kids or not? And when they get a gift for Christmas, a gift for Thanksgiving, grandma gives them well, how much of that are you going to put in the church? So we have to begin to teach them, and we want them to know that their part of their monthly giving is, on your behalf, I'm adding $5 for you, my friend, or my son, or my daughter, so they participated in the giving. So it's very important that we involve our children. So this is a spiritual message now. Please, 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 if you teach them when they're young, it will be part of who they are. Okay? So it's very important that we teach our kids. So those are the two goals. We need to fund the 750,000 for fund for 50K. We need to increase our monthly pledges. If you're doing it electronically, it's going to ask you to cancel one and do another one, or add. So you can have two. If let's say you're doing it monthly, they take from your account whatever once a month. If you want to add something, you can do a new one. So it'll have two coming out of your month, or you'll have to cancel one and do another. It doesn't allow you to change the number. You'll see it if you know how to do it. If you've given the fathers a check from, like some people don't know how to do it themselves, so you can write monthly giving on it. My old contribution, you put on the memo. My new contribution is X, and then you sign the check, and you write void on it, and then someone will process it for you. As soon as we meet these two goals, we will begin to advertise all the different furnishings that we need, and if you want to contribute to those, that's making the church beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful things, but we need to get to the finish line first. What do we need? Prayer, prayer, prayer. We're just talking with Abuna Dawood. Miracles happen every day, and we need the prayers to keep the miracles happening. It's a big, big project. 71,000 square feet, 3 buildings, 80 people working a day. It's a lot going on. Okay? So we need a lot of prayers because anything can go wrong. But God is the one who's corralling everything, and we need to continue to pray. One-time giving towards the project, monthly giving we talked about, and also the church accepts loans if you want to give a loan. That's another way to get to that finish line. Do you have any questions for, we have any questions for me or for Abuna Dawood before we continue? Go ahead. Oh, you're right. That was a bullet that I forgot to add. Thank you, Mina. All of you who are, especially the ones who grew up here, have a lot of family and friends who St. George is very dear to them. Send links, giving links to them, talk to them about the project, send the video to them, encourage them to help us get to our finish line. Very good point, Mina. I forgot to add it. Abundu told me, add it to that, and I forgot. Thank you, Mina. Ambassador, like you on behalf of St. George, ask your friends, tell your friends, tell your family. Go ahead, John. Sure. You want me to go back to something?
In my experience with donating, my employer also matches my donation.
Correct.
So is there
Do they match? Yeah, but we have for those who give to churches, we have a process. You can give them, we have whatever information they need us to fill out, we can fill out for them. We also have some churches, some matching companies refuse to give to a church specifically. So that's why we have Coptic Community Services, a nonprofit charity, which is the arm of the church that does the social services, the tutoring that we offer, all that. So if they won't match St. George and St. Shenouda, we had companies, big companies, match Coptic Community Services, and we can give you the EIN for that and set that up. But you'll find both. If you go to a big company that have the matching, you'll find both there. Because during COVID, many of the companies matched the church. After COVID, they went back to their old policy, no more churches, just service organizations. You follow?
But a lot of the congregation, I feel like maybe they don't know about
Matching?
their employer matching their donation.
Okay. So that it's a benefit.
Announcement or provide
Check with your employer for matching? Okay.
to check for matching.
Yeah. Do they match churches or no?
So I went in and I couldn't find St. George, but I think there's a way to add it.
Yes.
But I found like Coptic orphans.
Mhm. So you can try to start with trying to add Coptic St. George, and if they refuse, they'll reject St. George because it's a church. You can add Coptic Community, which is like Coptic Orphans and Social Services.
People don't know, and they request like an email for the church, and they request, and many people just aren't aware.
Fine, maybe we'll prepare something, and maybe we'll talk it at the English liturgy, maybe, or I don't know, Abuna, is this an issue for the Arabic parents too, or primarily English parents? We have to tell them both. Okay, yeah. So matching gift is an option. We'll prepare something little. We've done it multiple times. It's not Yani. It's just when people ask. Go ahead. Post the video on our YouTube. Okay. Can you take care of that or no? Hadir. Okay. Yeah. But you will not receive any tax exemption for your gift. So, yeah. So, yeah, it's like 3,000 or something. Like every company's different. 5,000, 3,000. They doubled it during COVID. They have all kinds of rules for that. Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. We recently got a very big match from Johnson & Johnson. So they were very generous, but they wanted they used to do churches, so we're on their database. And then they said, after COVID, no, back to community services, so we had to use. Go ahead, Rami.
We know everyone wants to donate to the iconostasis and the icons, but we have to finish the building. We're going to have a problem if we don't get this 750. We're going to have a problem, and it's going to done in just few months coming. They're going to give us CO according, and the timeline is going actually with their expectation. So by October, we have to pay 750. Otherwise, we have a problem. So we're going to rush doing the iconostasis. We are.
You have to build the home first before you furnish it.
what?
They're the ones that are participating in automatic ACH. No. This is the 700 families are the ones that are accounting for the 130,000 a month. Remember that? No. That's ACH monthly. We're talking about. No, there's people that give cash. There's people that give checks. There's people that give in many different ways. This is just when you go to the bank and you ask for a loan. What happens every month? ACH becomes extremely important. Monthly recurring. So when you say how many people contribute to your ACH, 700. How much do they contribute? 130,000. But that's not. Go ahead. Oh. No. They're not the only people contributing because to the fund for 50. Yeah. Oh, it's only from that group. Yeah, because we don't. There's nobody who's for Fund for 50 is giving us a check every month that says Fund for 50K monthly giving. They're not. We were signing them up. So you would give me a voided check and I would sign you up. Every other contribution is outside of this. Right now we're talking about recurring. To answer your question, the only other ACHs are for one-time gifts, or when you have 5K, Art in Heaven. You come to our website and you hit the give button and you give. Those are all ACH transactions that are not part of monthly recurring. The rest were, okay, to answer your question, 200 were, I guess, for that. They started ACH for the fund for 50K. The 500 were doing it for their general fund, their contributions. They were that's how they were giving. They were giving long before we asked them to sign up for monthly. They just have to give us a voided check. They give us a voided check, we do it for them. Yeah, go ahead. Any other? I think we have social media pages, Facebook, Haven. We have, and we're going. God willing, we haven't set the dates yet, but this year celebrate the 50th anniversary of our church. It's a big year for us. So, but let me get to my point. 50th anniversary. Hopefully, we're going to try to reach out to everybody who's experienced St. George for the last 50 years, and it'll be all you folks calling and saying, come, let's get together. We're going to celebrate 50 years together in Jersey City. All right? What the event date is, not set yet. Where, not yet. All those details are being worked on. But to get to your point about old friends, old people, hopefully when we start advertising, we're having our 50th anniversary. Everyone is inviting people that they grew up with and went to Sunday school with and prayed with and, baptized their kid with and all that good stuff. I know we're taking a lot of time. I'm sorry that we took up your break. Any other questions or no? So it's a call to action. If you're giving monthly, reconsider what you're giving. If you're, and we're also asking people for one-time gifts to cover the 750. The QR code is for recurring gifts, but you can actually also gift. Sorry, no, it's the same thing. You can use it for both. I think it's preset to recurring, but you can change it to one time if you want to do one time. You could do both. This is for recurring and one time if you want to use or if you go to the church website, if you do give, I think Fund for 50K is still one of the drop-down menus. Is that, yes. So if you go to give, church website, the red button on the right, give, Fund for 50K. If you do one time, if you do monthly, it's going to go towards covering these two numbers. And as soon as that's done, we'll introduce this whole idea, I want to buy a bench, I want to buy an icon, I want to buy whatever I want to buy. Go ahead. No. In the Arabic presentation Abuna is going to do next, give me a check, write void on it, and tell me $5. Like it's been, it's not. I don't think it's a lack of understanding. I think it's reminding everybody the importance of giving. It is extremely important. So I don't think it's a lack. But again, if there's any ideas, we're open to your ideas. But again, every group is different. For this group, I assume you know how to use online giving, websites, and so on, so I'm not getting into those details. In the other group, Abuna gets into the details on how to physically do it, which is okay. برضو. Any other questions? Sure. Okay. Okay. I think the only issue with the dinners, if you ask anybody who's done dinners, the actual amount collected after you pay for the dinner is it's not worth the effort. Yeah. Honestly, a lot of times, just all the energy and effort, if everybody takes care of their part, we don't have to go through, let's have an event, you know what I mean or no? Let's keep the event to celebrate 50 years together. That's an event to get together. But let's eat. Nobody, the food was it was lousy and we paid X dollars for it. No, it ends up causing, I don't know, Abuna. We tried it, yes.
Many time to get a van for the Sunday school, we did one. To everything we did that. It's not.
The return is so.
Like Abuna said.
All right. Is anything? Can we end it now so we can start the next lecture, or do you have any other questions? I hope we excited you about what the project looks like. As soon as yeah, it should have been if we would have done it. If we got to the 150, it would have been collected already. As we go.
I only. Only this week, only I realized the number that the church already paid for the SIP Avenue, 19 something million dollar. I don't know how it happened. Only I realized it this week. It's too much. Our people did very good. But still, we're looking about the monthly pledge because the bank is putting a watch on this. And if there is a drop in it, it's not good. I don't want to tell you about it.
Thomas said the same thing. He's like, we spent $19 million. I was like, how did we get that? I'm like, Abuna, remember how you kept asking? He's like, what's our cash balance? We give him a number. What's our cash balance? We give him a number. And the number would stay relatively the same month after month, but we're spending money. I was like, remember how I kept telling you the number kept staying the same? God was providing. But now the checks, Abuna signs, Abuna signs off on 1.4 million each month. So the numbers are getting, they're moving. They're working, which is good. The higher the number, the quicker the building. It's a fluid situation. But every time we give him, he's like, he holds his chest. Last month it was like 800. This month is 1.4. He's going to see it tomorrow when he checks his email.
I told my fathers here in the church after we get into the pandemic, I told them that Rabbina pushed us to start and putting the foundations already, and we cannot go back. Now everything is double and tripled. I don't know. But maybe God is trying to show us the miracle we hear in the Synexarium and all other churches. God wants us to see it by our eyes, to hear it by our ears, and to understand it that God is working. And this 19 million, I'm very surprised. Even I signed everything on it, but I never realized. That's why when Abuna did not mention, he said 14.1 only. He did not. I told him no. I cannot understand how it comes. Till now, I'm surprised.
All right, my friends, it's so good to see you. And thank you, Dr. Joseph, for coming. We're excited to have you. And the lecture today, let's swap out. Talking to us about anxiety. Dr. Elfare is going to be speaking to us today about anxiety and self-esteem. Dr. Joseph is a psychiatrist, and we felt that a lot of times when we speak to the professionals, they help us with our parenting, they help us deal with our partners. So thank you so much for coming and blessing us today.
Thank you, Abuna, and No problem. Anytime. I wasn't planning on talking about giving during this lecture, but I think it actually applies very well to what we're going to talk about. So I know a lot of you guys here, but there's also a lot of faces here I don't know. So just tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 30. I'm married to Irene. I don't have kids, just to be clear, right? So in case any of you guys are like, what are you doing with your kids, right? I went to undergrad in Rutgers, Newark. I went to medical school in Rutgers, New Jersey Medical School. I am finishing up my residency program in psychiatry now in July. For the past maybe 18 months, like year and a half, I've been working in like private practice. Also, I see families, I see adolescents. I get the privilege of kind of meeting a lot of families and meeting a lot of problems, because they don't come to me when things are great, they come to me when things are bad. With that being said, there's just 2 rules. Just call me Joseph or Joe, please. And please participate. Sometimes when I ask a question, I just get like dead faces from everybody. So please participate as much as you can. You can call me Juju. So Juju is like my childhood name, and my mom is like, you're a grown man now, like people should call you Joe or something. So you can call me, you could still call me Juju. It's fine. I don't mind at all. And one last preface is, look, talking about parenting in general is very hard, because it is like the most, you see grown men get reduced to tears when you talk about their kids, okay? So I know this is a very sensitive topic, and there's gonna be some stuff I say that we talk about that might seem, that's gonna hurt, right? So I just want to tell you that in advance, and I also want to tell you, like, this is not a reflection of me personally. I am not up to the standard of like a healthy whatever, right? I am only giving information from what I've seen and from things I read. But by no stretch of the imagination am I more experienced than any of you here. So I'm trying to offer a sense of humility when talking about this, because it is a very heavy topic and it can feel very painful. So with that being said, wanted to talk about the parent's role in general and self-esteem and anxiety with your kids. Now, kids are all different ages, so some of this stuff will apply to your kids, some of it won't. The overview here is we're going to talk about anxiety, normal anxiety versus pathological anxiety. We're going to talk about insecurity, normal insecurity and constructive insecurity and pathological insecurity. And what can you provide for your child, where things can go wrong, this concept called good enough parenting, and education on treatment options, very briefly. So these are the themes, and we're going to go through the verses because I want you to recognize how frustrating this topic is. The first one's, fathers, do not exacerbate your children, instead bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Great. And in Arabic, it's the word is riz. Like it's like don't compare yourself to your kids. Like don't bother your son, right? Then the next verse is, do not withhold discipline from a child. If you strike him with a rod, he will not die. Okay, so don't exacerbate your kids. Don't exacerbate your kids. But if you hit him with a rod, he's going to be all right. Okay, next one. If anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever. Okay, so we're right, exactly. He said a lot of mixed messages. There's a paradoxical nature to parenting. Next one. Whoever loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. This is Christ preaching. Then the next one, honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and you may live a long life. Okay, every single verse is against the other verse. So there seems to be like a theme of paradox, and that's why this topic is very difficult to talk about. Normal anxiety. Anxiety is very similar to pain. It's uncomfortable, it's frustrating, but it serves a purpose. What purpose does it serve? It tells you there's something wrong. There's something going on, right? I have to resolve this situation. There is a disorder called congenital insensitivity to pain with anhidrosis. This disorder is somebody who does not experience pain, and these people, life expectancy is 25 years old, because babies, if any of you had newborns or have newborns, they will poke their eye out if they don't get a stimulus of pain. They will bite through their mouth, or their teeth. They will bite through their gums. They'll eat their fingers. They don't know any better. Even you as an adult, if I took away your ability to feel pain today, if you have a pain in your knee, you walk less on that knee, or you go to the doctor. If you don't know you have pain, you're going to keep walking on that knee. It tells you something is wrong. So in theories, is be thankful for your anxiety and be thankful for your pain, even when you're feeling it really badly. If the bear entered into the room, you would be anxious. You'd get the heck out of there, right? Let's talk about pathological anxiety. So these two slides were for the college kids, but I think it's relevant to all of us here too. Look, the DSM, which I have in here, you know, priests bring like Bibles to their talks. I bring like the DSM. The DSM is the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for mental illnesses, right? This is like a group of smart psychologists and psychiatrists and behavior people make the cookbook for how to diagnose a psychiatric illness. In the intro to this book, which no one reads, is you should not use this to diagnose yourself. You cannot diagnose yourself. You cannot diagnose your children. I cannot diagnose my wife. I'll tell you why. There's too much baggage in a personal relationship. It clouds everyone's judgment. Psychiatry and mental illness and mental health is very complicated because there's no blood test I could draw that tells me you're anxious or you're depressed, right? So all I'm saying is just be careful about throwing these words around. I'm only giving this as information, not as diagnostic material. Pathological anxiety tends to have three main things with it. One is a loss of functionality. Your anxiety is preventing you from going to work, from driving, from being on planes, from public speaking, right? So there's an element of loss. Two, a persistent feeling of anxiety with no rational stimulus. We saw the bear in the living room earlier. If the bear is in the living room for you all the time, this is pathological anxiety. If a bear entered this room right now and we all got very anxious and ran out, that is normal anxiety. That's good. The third piece is physical symptoms. Most anxiety disorders, I will just say all of them, have a physical component to it. So when you are experiencing the anxiety, you get tachycardia, rapid heart rate, sweating, GI distress, shaking. Some people have all kinds of symptoms from anxiety, but those are common ones that I see. And there are many different kinds of anxiety disorders. Anxiety is a whole umbrella term that there's many things under it. One is, this is specific phobia. I think when this was last measured in epidemiological studies, specific phobia is the most common type of anxiety disorder. And a specific phobia is like fear of flying, emetophobia, which is fear of throwing up, or having throw up be in contact with you. There's like fear of, I should have put fear of like spiders on here. A lot of people, and here's the thing, no one likes spiders, right? Like that's so here's what I'm talking about. No one likes throw up. No one likes flying that much. Pathological anxiety is you miss your brother's wedding because you don't want to get on a plane. That's pathological anxiety. It's debilitating. It causes a loss of function in your life. Social anxiety disorder, believe it or not, this is very high in Middle Eastern communities. And it's probably because we're all looking at each other and judging each other all the time. And, you know, this guy got a new car and that guy got a new house and this guy got a new this. And, how much money are we spending on the church? I can't believe why is that money not coming over here, right? So if you're not anxious Already, you come to the Coptic church, you'll be anxious. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's any kind of community has this aspect to it, because we're all very intimate with each other, and we all treat each other like family. Generalized anxiety disorder it's persistently increased anxiety, but it has no specific stressor, right? So it's, my kid, came home early from school today. What's going on in the school? My kid came home late from the school today. What's going on in the school? Where is he? Right? So, but it's persistent, and it's about everything, right? It's about a lot of different areas, and it goes on for 6 months, and it debilitates you, and there's a lot of issues that come with it, and it's very common. Insecurity. Let's talk about insecurity. Can you guys give me an example of a positive insecurity? Not just for your kids, for you. What is a positive insecurity? I don't want to walk around naked. Physical appearance. I'm sorry? Losing a job. You are insecure. You're like, I need to get a new job. Your baby, when they're infants, at one point, they realize that they are naked and everyone else is not. So they want to wear clothes. Like, what is your name? Mina. Like Mina said. Physical appearance. Very good. Did anyone give you these slides? Success. Getting a job. Right? What? Give me one more if there's any other ones. Failing out of school. What does failing out of school can prompt you to, you get embarrassed? You're known as the guy, you're known as the kid who failed out of school. Social standing. Right? I'm going to generate a thing here that says negative or pathological insecurity. What's an example? It's a trick question. It's the same exact thing. It is the same exact thing. What is the factor in the child's life that changes something from a positive to a pathological insecurity? Could be obsessiveness. The feedback they're getting, yeah. It's you. It's you. Your child, I just want, look, we think kids are kind of dumb, and they are kind of dumb, to be fair, right? But they're dumb in how they communicate. They don't have good ways to communicate well. They don't have good ways to regulate well. That's why kids throw temper tantrums. But kids observe you when you're not looking. And they know you better than you know you. Your kids know what you desire, what you admire, and what your intention is. Actually, back to what Abuna David was saying. You give your kid $1 to go put it in you're teaching them, right? That giving is a part of your life. When you give him that $1, do you tell him, make sure Abuna sees you? Do you tell him, put it in your pocket and make sure no one sees you? Do you do it so that you can tell your friends, little Shanuda is going to go give $1 to the church? All of you are saying no, but is that true? I'm not calling anyone out here specifically. I'm asking you to reflect on yourself. What is your genuine intention when you do that? Is your genuine intention that I'm raising a saint? I'm raising somebody who needs to value this? Or are you serving yourself? Here's another part of this, right? We're talking about anxiety and self-esteem issues with the kids. We're all healthy here? Everyone here, no anxiety, no trauma, no issues? Everyone here is okay? Yeah, we're all perfect. Yeah, we're perfect, right? My kid is the anxious one. Where did he get it from? Fell out of a tree? Listen, it doesn't, look, social media and how much kids are exposed to nowadays alters them a lot. But the great majority of your child's thought process, what goes through their head, is coming from home. It's coming from home. So you have to kind of check yourself. Look, you grew up in a household where if you were 1 pound overweight, your mom made sure you knew it. Your mom made sure you knew it. She told you no more ice cream. Right? You grew up in a house where your dad made sure to share all of the finances with you and tell you how much money he's spending on you. So you have you're very frugal. So you punish your kids. Or the opposite. You make some money now, so you want your kids to have money. They don't value money like that. You are instilling that in them. So when you are interacting with your kids, are you serving them or are you serving yourself? That's a question you have to ask yourself. I want my kid to be a doctor. Why? Does he want to be a doctor? I want my kid to read the gospel at church. Why? So you could say that's my kid reading the gospel. This is my personal dad, his favorite saying regarding parenting. And this is something I used to fight with him about all the time. And he kept telling me in Middle Eastern dad fashion, you will understand when you have kids. And I think I'm maybe starting to understand what he means now. He says there are only two kinds of parents. Ones who want their child to be good and successful, and ones who want to appear to be successful parents. And I used to argue with my dad about this, give him examples. There are people who appear to be successful parents and their kids are successful. He's not talking about outcomes. He's talking about intention. When you interact with your child, are you interacting in the sense of, I must decrease, so you must increase? Or are you interacting as, I'm riding your stock. You go up, I go up. You have money, I have money. You are a doctor, I'm the father of a doctor. Abul Dakatra. This concept of good enough parenting, it was created by this guy named David Winnicott, who was a pediatrician and a psychoanalyst who wrote about the parent-child relationship in the 1950s. A lot of the primary text that he wrote called the parent he's referring to was the mother. But that's because in those days there were very tight archetypal roles, but it applies to both sets of parents equally. His main thing is the perfect is the enemy of the good. Look, even if, okay, fine, your intention is for your kid. Your intention is for your child. How is your neuroticism damaging your child? Okay, your kid wanted to be a best basketball player. They told you that. You're like, all right, I'm going to push them to do it. Are you now more invested than they? Can they leave? Like if they're too stressed out, right? Like if they're way too overwhelmed now and they want to quit, can they? So look. Some by the way, I will tell you, there's a family that I see. The first fight was about a sport. And the kid wanted to leave the sport and the dad insisted they stay because they love it. That's what the dad told me. I'm telling you, the dad was telling me the kid loves it. I finally got it through his head. He has to chill out. Why are you doing it? Why are you asking him to do it? Right, to be a person, right? To explore the world. Right, to explore the world. Of course. Do it. We'll get there. We'll get there. Well, go ahead. Tell me your complicated question.
The opposite is, I want my kids to fail so they know so they understand that, life is not perfect.
So you're actually talking about good enough parenting. So for the people on live stream and stuff, the question was, I want my kids to fail so they understand life is not perfect. Let me get through the principles. This is a solid point. Number one is care and support that gradually withdraws. Let me explain what I mean by this. When you have a brand new baby, fresh out the womb, right? They need you 24/7. You are on call 24/7. And they are the worst boss of all time. They don't care if you have diarrhea, if you have a sick day, if they don't care. There's no vacation, there's no sick days. They need you 24/7. This is what unfortunately ends up happening. You will delve into that parent role too much. What happens when a kid is like 9 to 12 months and they're starting to hold on to the bench to try to walk, and they're able to walk, but they don't want to do it? What do? What do kids do? Right. And what do you do the first couple times because you're weak, right? You pick them up, right? What do you do when you don't pick? What do they do when you don't pick them up? How do they express themselves? Do they say, "Mother, I don't appreciate that," right? They flip out, right? And they will let you know. What happens after you reject them a few times? They just flip out less. And eventually they stop crying about it. What happens if you carry your kid through 15, 16 months they don't walk? They will not walk. Their legs are going to atrophy. Their muscles are not going to grow. They're going to be delayed because you're not carrying them. Because they're not getting practice in walking. So similarly, how does this look in adulthood? Roh mama. 35-year-old man getting married, doesn't know how to do his laundry. Doesn't know he'll burn a bowl of cereal. Doesn't know how to do anything. Because why? Because there's an idea from the mom that this is my child. I have to protect him at all costs. It's a baby? He's not a baby. He's a grown man. You have to withdraw. And you do it in stages. And you start withdrawing not when they're a grown man, when they're still in your house. Boundary setting. This one, you can have a whole other lecture on boundary setting. But boundary setting, look, your kids, when they're small, they have to believe that you are an infinite resource for them, right? They have to have that sense of security, that Bubba's not tired after work. Bubba wants to play, Legos for 3 hours after having his boss yell at him at work. He doesn't, but they have to kind of believe that in the beginning. When do kids develop empathy or have the ability to have empathy? Some kids never, right? Yeah. But no. In psychological development, I was actually surprised when I looked this up. 2 to 3 years old, they develop empathy. 2 to 3 years old, they are able to recognize that you're a distinct person. And being a distinct person, you have distinct boundaries and things to do. Look, I have no good copy and paste cookie cutter formula for how to set a boundary with your kid. I don't know. And every relationship is a little bit different. But there are opportunities that arise where you're able to set a boundary. Now, I'm not saying you set a boundary by, get the heck out of my face, I had a hard day at work. No, you still do it with a lot of love and support. But it's important to set it. Here's the thing, if you keep delaying setting it, when you decide to set it, you're gonna freak out like that. You're gonna, this kid, my dad hates me. Relationship. Constant communication. So, let's talk about communication. Let me ask you guys a question actually. What do you provide for your children? What can you provide for your children? This is not a trick question. Sustenance in the form of food, shelter, okay? So like resources, okay? What else? Guidance, right? Love, emotional support, guidance, right? Okay. Let me ask you guys a question. Can you provide the most amount of resources for your kid? No. None of you here are the richest people in the world. Those guys can provide the most amount of support. Guidance. Are you guys here the smartest people in the world? You know exactly what your kid needs to do? Arguably, right? Yeah, arguably smart, right? You're not. I hate to break it to you. Sorry to burst your bubble, right? You're not. What can you provide for your kid that only you can provide is, for your daughter, the love of a father, and the love of a mother. Look, if you don't provide it, they're going to look for it. They need it. If you do not communicate that love, that is always going to be missing. How many times have you heard or heard a reference of something about a guy complaining about how the kid should be thankful that I put a roof over his head? Congratulations, man. You put a roof over his head. So what? So what? That is not your unique thing. I'm not saying to not, care for your kids. Obviously do that, but you cannot miss that fundamental piece. If you are missing it, your kid will go looking for it. And let me just, aside from, this goes back to the intention thing. Men typically like cars, okay? They love nice cars. Okay, you're with your kids, they're in the back seat, and you see a nice Lamborghini or something pull up. And you say, your eyes widen, you might not even say anything out loud. Your kid sees that Bubba likes that. Okay. Then they grow up, and you're like, all this kid talks about is cars. All he does is, his idiot friend, rich dad, he has a nice car, but he's a terrible influence on my kid. Why does your kid idealize him? Because you like cars. You taught your kid that anyone who has a nice car is a admirable person. Right? So where is this coming from? Even better. Your kid, 12 years old, is what? 12 years old, 7th grade, 6th grade? 6th grade. Comes home to you and says, Bubba, Mama, Mrs. Smith is so unfair. What happened? She gave us this assignment 2 weeks ago, and it's due tomorrow, and she didn't even announce it once in the class. I'm so stressed out. What is your intuitive desire at that point? Inta Hmar. This is from you, and even better, you got this trait from your mom. Like in that, like you got or if you're the mom, you got this trait from your dad, right? Look at your son. Your son doesn't know what he's doing. Okay, what was that kid saying to you? Why did they come give you that problem? And then you tell them, Habibi, next time if there's a project like that, you start on it right away. You want to be responsible. In the real world, deadlines, nobody informs you, right? You start being responsible. I want to teach my kid responsibility. You think he doesn't know that? Hold on. Why is he stressed out? You think he doesn't know? He knows. He's not coming to you for a solution. He does not care about that. He's coming to you to tell you, Bubba, I'm a failure. Do you still love me? And you just made him feel worse. You just validated his fear. Yes, you are an idiot. That's what he just said, Bubba, am I an idiot? And you said, yes, you are. Okay. But by the way, I will tell you something that happens all the time. A kid is fighting with their parents. They come to me. They're fighting with their parents about a really dumb issue. The parent obviously has a rational solution, and the kid doesn't. I just met this kid. I give them a rational solution, probably even worse than what their parents, with much less time. The kid's like, Dr. Elfare has a good point. Why is that? Is it because I'm special? No, it's because I don't have the baggage of that relationship. Why did your kid need to prove a point to you? Why did they need to prove a point that you're wrong? Because all you do is fight with them. They never win. Of course they can't win. They're dumb. I'm telling you, they're dumb. They're not going to out-rationalize you, right? But you're not going to win the relationship by winning the argument. You're going to lose the relationship. Congratulations, man, you won. Maybe your dad did that to you. Maybe your dad would slap you, and that would be the end of the argument. Okay, that's how my dad treated me, and I'm glad I live, 3 states away from him. What about with your kid? You want him to be happy he lives 3 states away from you? Look, be mindful of your own issues when dealing with your kid. This is a new person who is not yet traumatized, right? Managing security and limitations, right? So, once again, when we were kids, Baba was a superhero, Mama was a saint, hopefully still is a saint. right? But there's a point where you're breaking the disillusionment, where you are failing. What Mina was saying. There is a point where we all learned that our parents are finite. And our parents do not have control. And there's a breaking of there's a disillusionment that happens. That is actually supposed to happen. That is part of good enough parenting. You are not supposed to be unexhaustible. So don't feel guilty if you are. Okay, this is my check-in for you guys. It's managing your own anxiety and guilt. Some of you might be sitting here now and thinking like, oh my God, I'm screwed up my kid forever. I'm doing the same exact thing my mom did to me. I gave him an anxiety disorder. I gave him depression. I gave him an eating disorder. Look, managing your own anxiety. There's no one on this planet who's a perfect parent. And in fact, being a parent, you are bound to, you have to make mistakes. Like there's no, it's odd if you're perfect. There's no such thing. It just doesn't exist. So cut yourself some slack. And then we talked about this earlier. What is my trauma and how am I passing it down? And how am I didn't add this, but how am I addressing it? Right? If you have some issues, you got to take care of that too, right? Like, I get it. Selfless, give everything to my kids. But yeah, like you can't walk on a broken knee. If you have a broken knee, fix your knee first so that you could walk and run. What is my insecurity? Just passing on to this. What are my intentions for their life? This goes back to this point, right? Like, what do I want for my kids? And what do I secretly want, with that? Like, what do I secretly want for their life too? Right? Well, how's it going to benefit me? Right? Like, my kid is going to grow up and he's going to go to the monastery. Why? Why not? What if that's what he wants to do? And what if that's what he's called for? That would be heartbreaking. Why? Because that's not going to happen. I'm getting zero benefit out of that, man. I invested all this time and energy into you. You're going to go, you're going to go pray in the woods? Like, what's going on? Oh, and this is a good point for you guys. Is it ever too late, right? So you're sitting here, I already screwed up my kids because I'm screwed up and I have some trauma and I already fought with them and he came to me asking me for advice and I called him an idiot. He came to me asking me for support and I gave him advice, right? Look, I have geriatric patients, right, who hate their parents, who are deeply traumatized by their parents, who on their parents' deathbed, their parents apologize to them, right? And that resolved a lot for them, right? Look, your kids also, they love you too, right? Like, I know it might not seem that way, but they do love you, right? So if they actually see that you're honestly trying and you're communicating and you apologize, they can see that. They're not that smart. They're not that good at regulating. They're not that good at expressing, but they feel just as much as you. And they're actually way more sensitive than you. So they know what's going on with you, right? Look, the other piece to this too about apologizing, just because I touched on that point, back to the good enough parenting, the way you apologize to your child is different than apologizing to anyone else. You can apologize, and I don't want to use that so, I don't want to say apologizing so loosely, right? But you do not violate the parent-child relationship when you apologize. Meaning, you are not apologizing to them like an equal. They are still not your equal. You can apologize without crossing the boundary that, like, now we're peers. We are not peers. I am not encouraging you to be soft with your children. I'm just encouraging you to be honest. Okay. My child is anxious, depressed, eating disordered, has OCD. Now what? What does treatment consist of? Before treatment, are we optimizing the other things in their life. So are they sleeping well? Are they eating well? Are they limiting social media consumption? Do they have some sort of communication with you? Right? What's their social circle look like? Therapy and medications. What does therapy look like? Is going to therapy a sin? I'm assuming none of you here believe going to therapy is a sin, but if you do or have a question about it, please feel free to ask. There's an open discussion. We'll get into therapy and medications a little more, but we can save that for the end if someone has thoughts about it. So here's a good point about medications. Just so, look, we had a whole grand rounds last week about the psychotherapeutic relationship people have with their pill, their Lexapro. What's bizarre is no one has this kind of relationship with their atorvastatin. Atorvastatin, it's a cholesterol pill. Crestor, aspirin, Tylenol. You take a Tylenol, you're not like, I am a weak person and I need this Tylenol to get through the day and I'm dependent on, right? No, people don't. And there's the other flip side of that. I would not be able to function without a Tylenol. No one says that. People make medications out to be something they're not, either demonized or idealized. It is from the devil, or it is the only reason I'm alive today. Look, it is neither that or that. It is useful in certain clinical contexts, but it does not replace anything in your life. Right? I'm not against medication at all. I prescribe medication all the time, but it's with the expectation, this is not what you think it is on this end, and it's not what you think it is on that end. You don't take a Tylenol and have all these feelings. You got to turn down the intensity of the emotion when you take a Lexapro. In fact, one of the nicest things, every time I prescribe Lexapro, I tell my patients, like, take 5 milligram for, or if they're really anxious, split it in half and take 2.5 for a week and then take the full pill. And I follow up with you in 3 weeks. They'll come to me and say, I don't really feel anything. I know you don't feel anything. And but if I had told you that, you would not have believed me. Right? They were expecting day one you take it, the world's going to change. Nothing's going to change. You might get like a stomach ache the first 3 days. And that's it. Okay. Your child is sick. Everyone's holding their breath. Put your oxygen mask on first. Okay? Look, when kids, like, I think it was my brother or one of my friends who, when they first had their newborn, the kid had like a scratch on his face, and they were up 4 a.m. The kid like scratched himself. Kids scratch themselves all the time. WebMD, what is a rash? Is it cancer? Is this some sort of bacterial infection? I heard bacterial infections in the first 7 days cause a 25% decrease in IQ. Like, dude, go to sleep, man. Just shut up. Like, just go to sleep. Your kid's finally sleeping. It is not lost on me the amount of emotions that goes through your head when your kid is sick with something solvable. Something like mental health, which is already very confusing. Brace yourself. How am I reacting? Am I sober-minded right now to handle this situation? And you know what? I tell a lot of parents who I notice are struggling a lot to start their own therapy. Because what ends up happening is they like have therapy by proxy with me. They'll like call me and complain about their concerns. I'm like, dude, I'm not your doctor. I'm not your doctor. I tell them, I'm like, listen, this is taking a lot on you, and I understand why, but I am not your doctor. I'm your kid's doctor. You should start therapy on your own. And look, that's not a bad thing to do. You need a space for that. You're a person too. You're not, break your own disillusionment. You are not an endless resource. Therapy, what is it useful for? One, it's non-judgmental, right? If you've been suffocating your kid nonstop with advice when they're seeking support, when the kid sits with me, first of all, they don't want to talk to me because I'm just a proxy for their parent, right? My dad's paying you. Of course, you're going to say what he's saying, okay? When the kid comes to realize that they can say things that their dad disagrees with, their mom disagrees with, they start to open up. And they flood out. So if communication is at a standstill, therapy is a great place. Because the kid's definitely not going to talk to you, but they might talk to the therapist. Maybe not the first time, but they might talk to the therapist. It's also a safe space to be insecure. Now look, at 12, you told your dad about this math English project, and your dad berated you. At 16, they come to the office and say, he just doesn't talk to us. He isolates himself in his room all day. I don't even know what's going on with him. You think he wants to share anything with you? And in fact, now he's insecure. What is he insecure about? Something really dumb, right? Like something that's not as high as a math test. He's insecure because he grows chest hair now, right? He's not sharing that with you. But he needs to share it with someone. So it's a place to be insecure, to be and have no judgment. Now, what is therapy not? It's not a replacement for you. Listen, I pay $250, hopefully not that expensive. I pay $250 every Thursday so that I can have my Thursday for free. So my kids getting their non-judgment and their look, as much as kids will open up to me and admire any therapist, I don't stand a chance next to their parent who's abusive. I'm not even as favored as an abusive parent. There is nobody on the planet more important than you to them. They'll never let you know that. But it's the truth. The therapist is not raising your kid. They're not raising your kid. You're raising your kid. So therapy, okay, it's not a sin, it's a good thing, but it's also not, once again, it's not idealized. What is it not also? It is not objective. And I left this a little bit vague. What I mean by it's not objective is, look, therapists come in all shapes and sizes, right? There are people who, have a certain style of saying things and doing things. Look, you might raise your kid in a household where they don't have girlfriends when they're 16. A boy doesn't have a girlfriend when he's 16. A girl doesn't have a boyfriend when she's 16. We just don't do that here. That's how our household is. If they are open with their therapist and the therapist is like, well, why doesn't, young Carmina go on a date? It's like, well, dude, we don't do that in our house. So I just wanted to be clear, right? Like, therapy oftentimes feels a lot like going to confession, right? When a Buna tells you, withhold communion for 2 weeks based on whatever you told them, that is objective. That is not that's a totally different principle. We're talking about a religious and spiritual life. Therapy is not a religious and spiritual life. And to be honest with you, any good therapist will tell you that's not what it is. They're not objective in that way. So by the way, the majority of therapists, the majority of people working in mental health, they don't push their agenda on kids. Just to be very clear, they're very, very open people with everybody, but they respect everybody's boundaries. Just to be clear, I'm yet to find a therapist who's like pushy with like what they want, right? That's not how that works. Let's talk about medication. So anxiety, depression, eating disorders, and OCD. I have a really easy job, as you could tell. It's all treated by SSRIs, right? SSRIs treat the majority of these illnesses in kids. Kids don't develop like psychotic or manic disorders, so they don't typically do other meds. For eating disorders, sometimes they'll add like a second-generation antipsychotic like Zyprexa or olanzapine to stimulate appetite. But the 3 most commonly prescribed meds to children are Zoloft, Prozac, and Lexapro. These are sertraline, fluoxetine, and escitalopram. Only Prozac and Lexapro are FDA approved for people under 18 for anxiety and depression. Now, I don't know if any of you know how FDA approval works. FDA approval only gets granted if the drug company applies for it. So when something is not FDA approved, it does not mean that it's like a brand new treatment. It's just like the patent ran out, so there's no money in applying for the FDA indication, right? So it's not going to be scary like if your kid is prescribed Zoloft. Oh, that's not FDA approved. Yeah, it's not, but it's fine, right? Each of these medications work relatively similar. Look, there are purposes why I would give somebody Lexapro over Prozac and why I would give somebody Prozac over Lexapro, but that's not for the scope of this discussion, right? In your mind, you can think of them as relatively equivalent. Number one, they're overall safe. Nothing magical or nothing demonstrative happens with these medications. Especially not in adolescence. In children, actually, something I've noticed, kids can be a little bit more, like young boys could be a little bit more aggressive on SSRIs, but not aggressive like they're like biting people. Aggressive as in like they're very confident. Like they will, like your kid who doesn't talk back to you, like they might talk back to you, but they were probably like anxious before and their anxiety is resolved. So they're like feeling easy to talk back to you. Number two, overall useful. To be quite honest with you, I see it so when the things we talked about in the slide before this are resolved, like the kid is sleeping well overall, they're eating well, they have a decent social circle. I have seen kids who have severe panic really resolve. I have seen kids who are unable to get out of bed really get better, right? So they're not sugar pills in that sense. They do allow the kid to break out of this issue. I didn't put this on here, but I'm going to address it. So this little thing that I have written here, increased risk of bleeding, GI discomfort, sexual side effect, potential conversion to hypomania, and rare potential increase in suicidal ideation. This is actually taken directly from my clinical note, right? I have like a little Google Docs. Whenever I prescribe a medicine, these are the side effects I discuss. I don't want to write it out every single time. Let's talk about some of these side effects. Increased risk of bleeding. SSRIs antagonize a serotonin receptor on the red blood cells that can cause clotting to decrease. Now, is this ever clinically significant? No. But, and it doesn't happen in kids, it happens in like geriatric patients. They'll get like little petechiae on their hands, right? Petechiae are little red dots, which just shows like capillary leaking, right? GI discomfort. Trivia for you all, where's the most serotonin receptors in your body? It's not in your brain, it's in your gut. Anything you take by mouth, it's gonna make you a little nauseous, it's gonna make you, a lot of people don't experience this, but some people do. Sexual side effects. This is mainly something I discuss with adults, but it can, SSRIs can decrease libido or sexual interest, right? And sometimes that's used as like a therapeutic effect in people who have like premature ejaculation or like people who are, that's something that's going on, becoming a pathological thing. Potential conversion into hypomania. People who are bipolar, are on the bipolar spectrum, if they have the propensity to become manic, SSRIs can take them there. Now, the risk of this actually happening is very low, even in people with bipolar disorder. But kids don't, very rare that kids actually have a genuine bipolar disorder. So this is not important really for children. Rare potential increase in suicidal ideation. Let's talk about that. Every SSRI on the market and every medication that increases serotonin in the brain, potential increase for suicidality, it's an FDA black box warning, potential increase in suicidality in people under the age of 24. Any medication that manipulates serotonin. Why? Why? I'll tell you why. First of all, I have never seen it happen. Ever. Ever seen it happen. I've never seen a kid develop suicidal ideation from taking an SSRI. But I will tell you how this got on the packaging. The first SSRI on the market was Prozac, fluoxetine. When that came out, you know, psychiatry at the time said we have figured out depression, the chemical theory of the brain. It's total nonsense. That's not how it works. But they started giving it to people, giving it to kids, and giving it to everybody. A lot of people got better, but nobody needed to make a court case over somebody who got better. Some people died by suicide, right? They made this whole court legislation, all this stuff, to pretty much say like Prozac has this side effect, and people giving it to their children should be knowledgeable about this. Look, I think, and the clinical trial on this shows like out of like 1,300 kids, like 10 of them developed suicidal ideation. Not a suicide attempt, just ideation. Now, in a random swath of 1,300 kids or so, you will have 10 of them who have suicidal ideation. So, from taking an aspirin, right? So it's the question of whether or not this is a genuine concern. I always talk about it with parents, but I have never seen it. Especially in a kid who's never even had thoughts like that before. I've never seen them have that thought. But it is something you should know about, because if your kid takes Zoloft, Prozac, Lexapro, you're going to go on Google.com and, you know, you're going to... No one on Reddit or these forums is posting about their positive experience, right? You don't go on Reddit and you're like, I had some anxiety, you know, at work, and now I don't. No one's writing a post about that. People are only writing about Lexapro my ear fell off and my hair fell out and my wife left me. Like, that's the only people who are writing about Lexapro. I'm not saying bad side effects don't happen. I'm just saying you have to be mindful of what's on there. General takeaways from this. Your child will experience both anxiety and insecurity, but neither of them are bad all the time. Look, if your kid is insecure about like how he looks at school or how he smells, he's 13, puberty's starting, and he's like, you know, the girl I like didn't want to sit next to me today because she said I had BO. What are you going to do about it? Give him deodorant. Maybe you should shower more than like once a week. I don't know, right? So it's not a bad thing. And anxiety is not a bad thing either. When you parent, and I said this at least 30 times already, be mindful of your intention first. What do I want? What does he want? She want? Parenting is complicated, paradoxical, difficult. Prepare to make mistakes. Prepare to feel guilty. And give yourself some grace, right? You were not raised in a perfect house. You have your own issues. Irene wanted me to add this last one. And look, I will add this last one, but I'm also going to make it hurt, to be honest with you. You're not doing this alone. Allow your parents, which is your father, God, and your mother, the church, to lead you, support you, and guide you. And that's a kumbaya moment. Why? Because they're not your kids. They're not yours. They don't belong to you. You think they belong to you. It looks just like me. They're not yours. They're not your kids. They are your responsibility. You are the steward, but they're not yours. And in fact, if you are not worthy of them, he will take them back. They're not your kids. So just to end on like nice positive note there. You're responsible. God's giving you this responsibility. It's the best, it's the most beautiful thing in the world. And it is the thing that causes the most joy and the most pain. Right? But you're not doing it alone, right? Like, they are his kids. So ask him for help. Thank you, guys. I apologize. All right, do you guys want to take 5 and then do questions?
He said no.
No, I just want, I want 5 because, you know, like after like punching you guys for like 10 minutes, I like at least want to, an hour, I at least want to give you guys a minute to breathe or something. Yeah. Can I use the bathroom? Okay, Mina, اتفضل.
Yeah, so my dilemma is my kids are close to, they're twins. And there's two different
Close in age.
personalities.
Sure.
Right. One had more medical problems, which had like Lyme disease and stuff, which caused more of the anxiety. Not, so anyway, in general, as a generalized perspective, how do you? I mean, with two different personalities of kids, how do you? One has more friends than the other, and they feel that, especially the teenagers, there's that comparison. Although two different personalities, so how do you make that person's insecurities, go away if they don't have that? When you say the church and the community outside, I'd love to have that community for them, because even when I was growing up, I had my own sets of friends that when my parents were, once you're teenagers, you have that secondary family that you go to. How do you do that at this stage? In a way, I don't know. It's a major dilemma for.
Your girls are how old now?
They're 16.
Okay. Look, let me tell you something about adolescence. Adolescence is a time where they're forming their own personality against yours. So the key is not instruction, the key is eliciting. Right? Meaning, look, they're not, I said it, I know I said kids are dumb like 30 times. Kids know what you want, and they know the majority of the time what the right thing to do is. But, look, if your kid is on their way to brushing their teeth, and you say, go brush your teeth, they're not doing it. I'm not listening to you. Get the heck out of here, man. I'm my own person. Right? I know, right? You're treating me like a robot, man. Like, you have to give them control, give them the illusion of control with your barriers, right? There are certain areas where you are going to step in. Like, Bubba, I think I'm going to start smoking. I think that's a great idea. No. That is not, I'm going to let them figure it out, right? But the majority of situations, look, you're being too hard on yourself. You've already done a lot of the groundwork. Let it grow. Let it happen. Let it happen naturally. Don't force it, right? A lot of times we are more eager than they are for their success. But just let it happen. And look, man, maybe there is a reason she's avoiding all those friends. Maybe they're not really friends. Maybe she doesn't know how to communicate on a superficial level because she's not superficial, right? And maybe when she does find a real friend, that is a real friend, right? But the freedom to be their self, and from you is unconditional love and acceptance, right? That's the idea there. But just be patient.
First, thanks for that really insightful talk. That's awesome. I wanted to ask, I guess thinking about like how we grew up, right? Our parents probably never asked us, "How are you feeling?" Right?
Right.
And we're coming with that baggage, right? And that has its own like issues that come with it, right? And then as we see like the rise in attention on mental illness and mental health, now like almost like the pendulum swinging the other way, where it's now like, how are you feeling? Check in,
Yep.
recognize the emotions, and it almost feels like, is there an over-indexing on that to the point where, like, what's the balance of building resiliency in kids while also checking in and recognizing their emotions? Like, and I'll give a quick example, like boredom, right? Our kids will say, "Hey, I'm bored."
The lecture I gave to the kids, I asked the kids, when's the last time you felt bored?
Right.
They never do. They never do. It's constant stimulus. Constant. But go ahead.
And probably like not to like, I don't know if we're like at the point of ruminating where we're like over focused on the emotions, but it feels like we've over-indexed. So what's the right thing?
You bring up a very good point in that back in the day, mental health was stigmatized, and now it's romanticized, right? It is now part of their identity. I have an anxiety disorder because they're trying to form their identity. So you tell them, you slap on a label that has to do with their mental, like who they are. That's who I am. I am an anxious person. Chill out, man. Like, You're not anxious. Like, just relax, right? They're seeking identity, right? But to answer your question more directly, what is my balance for my kid? Look, your balance is to meet them where they're at, right? When they were babies, infants, they didn't know how to ask you for food. They just cried, right? When you tried to feed them and they didn't want to eat, you're like, you want to explain to the kid, like, listen, man, if you don't gain weight, CPS takes you away. Like, you have to eat, okay? When they get to the point where they're able to express themselves a little bit more, the only thing your job is for them to know that they can talk to you. Because when they will talk to you. Look, if you're a safe person, I could talk to you. If you're not safe, I can't talk to you, right? So meet them where they're at, right? Like, they're having a crisis, you're there. They're not. Congratulations, right? It's you're now getting to a point where you're not feeding, you are responding. But make sure your responses are appropriate, right? You will have, like, I hope to God, none of your children or none of these kids ever get sick. When it happens, it's not about their illness, it's about your response, because that's what's in your control, right? So check in, but your goal is to be a safe person. That's the only job you have.
So I feel like mental illness is still stigmatized in the Middle Eastern community.
Absolutely.
Maybe not amongst us English-speaking, born, raised here. However, the Arabic-speaking, we're the Bethany, we're the Bethany right now. So, how do, like, some of us in here, we serve the high school girls' grade, and we see anxiety, we see depression, bulimia, all eating disorders amongst our girls, very low self-esteem.
Yeah.
Almost 90% of the girls they all have low self-esteem in our community. How do we start with the parents to tell them your child is bulimic? They need therapy. They need medication. They need to seek, medical. They need medical treatment.
Yeah.
It's either they think it's not real, or they feel like الناس هتقول إيه علينا, or they're just in denial. No, my kid, it's just a phase. They're gonna grow out of it. How do we communicate this to these parents and tell them your child needs help and they need to see professionals?
Look, it's not just in the Middle Eastern community. It's every community, right? And then bring up these issues, like, what are people going to say about us? My perfect response to that, first of all, I will tell you, just to give credit to the Arabic-speaking population, a lot of them know help is a good thing, but they are worried about perception. The first way to approach it is to talk about it and to tell them this is a totally confidential thing. That actually gives them a lot of ease. Remember, look, I'm going back to this intention thing. Why? Because our entire community is about my kids are good, thus I am good. Think about the people who raised us, these people who came from Egypt, who were professionals there, came here and are now blue-collar workers or less. Think about the trauma and insecurity they're dealing with. Of course, they're putting all their hope in you, okay? So to them, the health and stature of my kid is me. So if my kid is mentally ill, that means il-magnoon. As if that's, like, magnoon is like a curse word. What is it? And unfortunately, that's what it is, right? Crazy. You're nuts, right? The first thing you do, if you are to approach this, is to ensure confidentiality, right? That's the first thing. A second part of this is, I think a lot of people also would be open to it, but the access is very limited. Even for people who are paying cash, can't book appointments, right? So it's there is with them, but what is your name? I'm sorry, Mary. Look, Miriam. Sorry, Miriam. I will venture to tell you this though. and maybe this is a talk for down the line, but you are also not their therapist or their psychiatrist or their parent. I almost sound a little selfish, but those are not like your children, right? So these parents have to deal with it, right? I know that sounds really harsh. I know that sounds really harsh, but the only reason I'm saying that to you is because do you have kids? Oh, okay. You're only 4? Oh, okay. All right. That's what. I don't. What if I assumed? What if I was like, you have 7 kids, right? Like, come on, right? So you have your own kids, right? And I'm not saying that to be selfish, but I'm saying, like, don't feel an overwhelming guilt about that. Support where you can, but draw your own boundary there, because you don't own that. You don't own that. You can advise, you can provide resources, you can even provide a kind word, but don't feel guilty about not raising somebody else's kids. Once again, I know that sounds harsh, but you'll be judged on your kids, not their kids. Okay.
And there's one more question. I'm sorry, I know we're short. One more question. Also, some of them feel like you said, therapy might be expensive. The insurance company can't see what they go to their whether internal medicine doctor, a friend, family doctor, whatever, and they prescribe them these medicines.
Yes.
And I feel like, is a pediatrician capable of? Yes, they can prescribe it, but do they know? Do they test?
The most psychotropic medications in the United States are prescribed by primary care doctors. Yeah, not psychiatrists. There's a dearth of psychiatrists. There's 2.
I have to ask this question though. Sorry.
Okay.
This last question. The problem is when what Marion was saying though is when I was growing up, we had an extended family as the church or the
Yes.
Right now, these kids, and I see this firsthand, kids that are addicted that come to me. I'm not a doctor or anything, but that because I open up and I talk, very open, no filter.
You're a place of non-judgment.
Yeah, exactly. A filter, no filter. But basically, my own kids, the kids within their class, when I used to sit down when the teachers were late and stuff, some of them came to me and told me we're on SSRIs, we're manic depressive or whatever because of family. These kids don't have this extended family as a church or as a community, so they don't know where to go to for help. And I agree with Mariam. Some of them need psychiatrists or whatever.
Sure.
But others don't have that extended family.
We'll talk.
Anybody that's to pick up their kids, you can be excused. I'm on your behalf. I'm going to thank Joe for giving this talk. We gave him very little notice, but he did a great job. And please stay after for questions.
Why, guys?
Sorry. If you have kids to pick up, you got to go.
Mina, we'll talk on the way.